Hi, and welcome to this webinar about news and updates in SOLIDWORKS 2021. My name is Eirin Holmström, and with me is Lars Haaland. And we will present the news in these two webinars today. Each will be about 45 minutes, and we'll do a 50-minute break in between. During the webinar, the live chat will be open for you to ask questions, and one of our colleagues will keep track of your questions, and we will answer them at the end of each session. Before we start the presentation of the news, I would like to talk to you about the advantages of being on subscription. One of them are software updates, which means access to the latest version of SOLIDWORKS, support with us in PLM Group, included products such as Visualize, Standard, access to My SOLIDWORKS where you can find tips, videos for learning and knowledge base, and a given amount of certifications for free each year for each SOLIDWORKS on subscription.
All right, we have an online training offer, and we hold courses from our entire portfolio of SOLIDWORKS training courses. So if this is interesting for you, please let us know, and we will try to arrange something for you and your company.
The agenda today looks like this. In the first session, we're going to go through user experience, some of the news in Assemblies. We're going to look at drawings, PDM, electrical, and eDrawings, and we're going to have two sessions with tips and tricks. In the second session, we're going to look at parts, some more news within Assemblies, MBD, Visualize, Simulation, and also a few books with tips and tricks. So if you're ready, Lars, we're going to start with user experience.
This part is almost finished, but as you can see, the sketch color of this part is makes it almost impossible to see the sketch. So what you're going to do here is to apply a cut and then make a circular pattern of this cut along the perimeter of this this part. So the first thing I want to do is to make sure that I see the sketch properly. And in SOLIDWORKS 2021, there are some news when you want to change color of items in the user interface. And under the color setting, you now have very nice color chips that lets you very quickly see what color that is assigned to each item. What I want to do here is to assign a color which makes this sketch really stand out. So when I do that, I can see that it's much easier to click things and to see what I'm doing. We can see that there is a little button in Command Manager. Command Manager is this very large toolbar on top here. This little button here lets you collapse Command Manager so that it's minimized. You can still access the different tabs on top of your screen. And when you do so, you will get this little button here again, which makes you pin the Command Manager again. So very nice improvement in 2021 here. Collapsing Command Manager lets you sort of get more area on your screen that you can use for your models. And also a small different addition is that you can also this file open, file new, file save button bar, quick access toolbar, can also now be included in the Command Manager toolbar itself. So when collapsing now, you can have an even cleaner user interface. So I will move forward with making this little cut. As you probably know, the S key on your keyboard gives you this very nice menu here. And the new thing now, if you choose to customize this, is that you can search for commands. So if I want to put the circular pattern key on this S key button, I can just search for it and drag it down to my S key button menu. While I'm here, I want to also make sure that I grab the redo button. I'm going to talk about that later, and also the undo button. I will apply these to my heads up toolbar, which is this toolbar on top. As you can probably see, I have applied a couple of different buttons here, so this is not a default setup. But this shows that it's possible to customize the user interface in many different ways. We're going to talk more about customizing the interface later on. So just going out from this, I can now make this cut. So I'm basically just marking the sketch, choosing extruded cut, choosing through all, and then pressing the D key gives me this confirmation button here. And that's the cut. If I want to make a pattern of this, I can quite quickly apply the pattern this way. Pressing D key and OK. And as you can see, there is very little mouse movement that is required to make this kind of operation. If I want to change what I've done, of course, I can press undo. I can undo my way back to the cut and also to before the cut. And new in 2021 is that you can also use redo on a feature level. So if I now press redo, I can go back again. So earlier, if I did undo too many times, I had to recreate the later steps if I wanted to undo my undo, so to speak. So redo is now available on feature level. Very good new thing in 2021. Also, yeah, I should just mention that the redo function works on over 60 different features in SOLIDWORKS. Right now, it doesn't work very good on whole wizard features, weldment and sheet metal features, but still 60 features is quite a lot. So a little different thing is that you can now zoom a little bit more quickly with the mouse wheel. You can use a mouse wheel like this, as you probably know, but now you can also press the shift key while pressing the mouse wheel to zoom more quickly. So if you're working with a large file, a lot of large components and then a lot of small components, if you want to switch quickly between looking at something small and looking at something big, it's very quick now to use the shift key and just rolling with the mouse. Little nice new interface improvement there. The dimension dialog box has also got a little subtle improvement. If I now just make sure that Instant 3D is on, it is. So if I want to make a change to a dimension, now if I double click dimension, I will get the modify dimension dialog up before the dimension properties window on the left of the screen. So SOLIDWORKS had really just changed the order of each of how things appear on the screen. So if I now exit my way out of the modify dimension box, I now get the dimension property dialog box out here. So this will improve the speed that you work in SOLIDWORKS, because earlier, if you had large files, it could take quite a few moments for this dimension property dialog box to appear, and then the modify dimension dialog box appeared. So now they have just switched the order, and it lets you edit your dimensions and move on with your work. So overall, it's something which will increase your working speed within SOLIDWORKS. And I think that's all for now.
Great, thank you, Lars. So next we're going to look at is some news within Assemblies. I'm going to go to SOLIDWORKS. So when I start mating in Assemblies in 2021, you can see that the property manager has been updated. Instead of having all these mate types in lists that you have to expand, they are now much easier accessible with these tabs on top. So I'm going to make this washer to the bracket, and if I click my right mouse button twice, I'm able to exit the mate manager easily. I'm also going to do a slot mate on the bolt, and new in SOLIDWORKS 2021 is that I can now choose which constraint I want as my default. So in this case, it's center and start. I also have the possibility to lock rotation now in the same way we've been able to with concentric mates earlier. Just to choose which default stop mate I want, I go to Document Properties, Mates, and use the drop-down menu. As most of you probably see, I have made this the wrong way around, and that's quite easy to change in SOLIDWORKS. I just have to find my mate, right-click it, and then say Flip Mate Alignment. When I do that, I get a pop-up box asking me if I want the other mates affected to be flipped as well or not. And if I press no in this box, I'm going to get some errors and warnings in my tree, which can be time demanding and annoying to have to fix later. Would I press yes, I wouldn't get those. New in SOLIDWORKS 2021 is that I can now choose between having this pop-up box or to have my mates always or never flipped. So I'm going to set this to always, click OK, and then I'm going to redo the mate flip, and I can see that it's happened. What I get here is information about those other mates that's been flipped. You can turn that off as well. When working with hardware in Assemblies, it's quite common to use patterns for these ones. But with the pattern, I can still change the different configurations for each of them. And sometimes I want them to all be the same. I can do that by marking them and going to Properties and say use same configuration as pattern seed component. This ensures that when I change the seed, the other bolts are updated, but I can still change them individually. And that might not always be desirable to have this option. So a new way to do this in SOLIDWORKS 2021 is to go to the pattern component and say synchronize configuration of pattern components to seed. In this way, when I change my seed component, I get the rest of them updated as well, and I don't have the ability to change them individually. The last thing we're going to look at news in Assemblies for this session is interference detection. Interference detection is not a new tool in itself, but it's a great way to check for interference within our parts. But what's new in SOLIDWORKS 2021 is that I can now export my results to an Excel file. And I can also include thumbnails. So when I'm done that export, I'm going to get something like this, where I get a clear image of where the interference is, how much it is, and I can easily take that out and discuss with my colleagues, what should we do? Are they supposed to be there, as in for the nut and the bolt, or is it something that we need to work on to remove? So that was the first session with some news in Assemblies. Stay tuned for more later on.
And now some news in PDM. SOLIDWORKS PDM 2021 comes with extended possibilities for customizing the local view, and this makes it even easier to get an overview of the files in the company vault. So one of the best abilities with SOLIDWORKS PDM has long been the very good integration with Windows Explorer. And in 2021, as you can see here, you have there's built-in even better support for more recent Windows 10 element, like the ribbon interface, which is this large button row on top here. So here you can change view. You can press a couple of buttons that are working with the PDM client. For instance, the properties button, which lets you see basic properties with the file. So of course you can see the same information on top here, but just an example of many of the buttons in the Windows Explorer window is now working with the PDM client. So although these icons is very nice to look at, it's when we change the view to details that the full strength of the PDM client is visible. In this version, you can do many very nice things with the column setup. The column setup is what really decides what information each user and group is allowed to see. And in 2021, you can customize these columns even further. You can let each user choose what columns they want to see out of a predefined set of columns. So for instance, in this case, I can choose between 3 different column setups like this, each displaying a little bit different information. And this is useful because there might be projects or folders that where you want to see different information than what you usually do. So it's a very nice addition, I would say. And you can let each user choose what column they want to see out of a predefined selection that you can set up as an administrator. In 2021, you can also predefine columns for many other views, like the check-in and check-out windows, the quick research result window. Also, as an admin, you can add, move, remove, change name, and decide what users or group that have the permission to see certain column views, as well as defining what their default columns would be. And this means even more meaningful access to data for all the users. If you want to, as an admin, you can also allow each user to make some edits in their column views, like, for instance, moving columns like this, changing the width of columns, and so on. So that's a new right in the admin panel in 2021. So, as you can probably see, there are some new graphic improvement also in the PDM client. You can see that these states, they have very nice icons here. And this lets you, this is a very nice new thing that makes it easier to navigate in the PDM client, I would say, because you can sort of recognize these graphic symbols probably faster than reading the state name. So what you can do as an administrator is to decide what kind of icon each state has, and also each transition. That's something you do in the workflow, the same way as before, really. But if I just switch to the workflow quickly, I'll just have a sneak peek there. And what you can see is that you have these new icons here. And you now have a very large library of different icons that you can choose from. Okay. So I want to make a change on one of these parts. I think it's this one. And right now, this part is manufactured by 3D printing, a 3D printing process. But we want to change it. We have put this part in a cost engineering state, which in this case means that all components that are in this state, we try to look at different ways to reduce the cost of these components. In this case, we are going to make a metal version of this component, which is cheaper to manufacture. So to make this change, I want to first see what kind of consequences these changes will have on the rest of the components that this part is a part of. So to do that, I will choose the Where Used tab. This is something you are probably familiar with. Here you can see how, what other components that this part belongs to. I can also now in 2021, I can go to my right side here and choose a treehouse view to view the same information, but in a very graphic, nice new way. I'm just going to enlarge it a little bit so they can see better on my screen. So you can see, as you can see here, you can it's very easy to get a very visual, nice overview of everything that is related to this part. So here I can choose the components I want to check out, and then check in or check out, or whatever I want to do the common things that I do in the PDM client. I can print out this view. I can make an Excel file out of it with icons. For instance, if I want to make this information part of a change order or something like that. Very nice new addition to PDM 2021. Okay, so let's apply this this change now. And doing the change itself is not really something new in 2021. So I'll just skip that. I will move forward a little bit in time and show you the finished version of the same part, which is now a part made of plates that are welded together. So in this case, I have a cut list because of this, and a very, very nice new addition to PDM 2021 is that I can now see this cut list information as part of the calculated BOM within the PDM client. So here in the part, I can choose to include, exclude things from the cut list, and the calculated BOM tab will respect the settings that I apply in the part. So if I go back to the PDM client and just show you how this looks, the information will be displayed like this. So here, my new part is here, and in the Bill of Materials tab, I can see that there are some nice cut list items here. So this is something which actually works with all kinds of derived parts. It basically gives you a lot more information to see in the PDM client. And keep in mind that you can see this information without having SOLIDWORKS installed. So it's a very nice thing to have. All right. We are. I think we're done with looking at the PDM news. So with these new improvements in PDM 2021, it's even simpler to get valuable information out of your products, and this makes your team even more effective.
So we're going to look at the first tips and tricks session, and we're going to look at some tips for general user interface. So most of you are familiar with the welcome screen that shows up when you start SOLIDWORKS, and if you have closed it and you want to open it again, you can just click on the house up here. What you actually see in this welcome screen is your default templates for part, assembly, and drawings. You can open you can have recent documents, and here you can also pin those documents to have your favorite documents easily accessible. You have recent folders and resources such as the What's New information block, where you can read more about the news we are going through today, as well as those we are not talking that much about. Recent is just an expanded view of this one. Under Learn, I have access to tutorials, training, etc. And under Alerts, I can find information such that there is a new service pack available for SOLIDWORKS 2021. I'm going to open this tips and trick assembly to show you some more. When I open this, all of my items in the feature tree is collapsed, and by marking one of them and clicking the star on my numpad, I can expand it. If I want to expand all of them, I just click my top level assembly and then click the star again. To collapse and expand feature tree, I can click Shift and C. So I'm going to open this part and look a bit more at some of the news. So if I want to change material, I right click the material, and in this list, I can add my own commonly used or favorite materials, or I can go to the material library and search. And there's a lot of materials here, so to find the one I want can be time consuming. Instead, I can just search, as in this case where I want IEC 304, and I can just click apply and close. When I'm in a sketch and I want to edit a dimension, I can easily do that by marking the dimension and using this spin box increment. I can also do that by rolling the roller on my mouse. To adjust what this value should be, I can go to Options, Spin box increment, and I can set different values for different units and also one for angle and time. So Lars already mentioned the S key, or the SOLIDWORKS super secret special key, as we call it. So if I use this key to draw a rectangle, I can use the A key on my keyboard to change which type of rectangle I want to draw. This. If I use the S key to draw a line, I can use the A key to change between a straight line and an arch. And when I'm done with my sketch, I can click the D key to get the confirmation corner at my pointer and then easily exit it. If I hold Control on my keyboard, I can mark multiple items. But if I'm unlucky now or a bit clumsy and I click the graphics area, I lose all my marked items. Instead of having to do this all over again, I can just right-click and use the previous selection. Ta-da. Another good shortcut key is to use the G to get the magnifying glass to look for details or other maybe imperfections in my part, which is quite important to avoid. If I double-click a feature, I get all the dimensions that are used to create it. And I can easily change, let's say this 76.2. I want to edit it to 80.2. But I was a bit quick and I ended up writing 802 instead. So all of my features are in error and my sketch looks all wrong. This can be time consuming to repair manually, but luckily you have this super life-saving button. So if I go to File and do Reload, I can easily get my part back as it was before I did the change. That was the first tips and tricks session for today. Stay tuned for more good tips and tricks.
We are going to look at a couple of news in SOLIDWORKS Electrical 2021. The first thing is that you can now draw route paths using splines as well as lines. And this makes it easier to get exactly the route path that you are after. Adds more flexibility to drawing route paths. The second thing is that you can now group your cables into separate assemblies. You can make assemblies of all cables, certain cables, or just one cable, and this makes it easier to sort of structure and keep your electrical assembly more organized. The second, the last thing is you now have a SOLIDWORKS Electrical Viewer, which is a standalone program which lets you view electrical schematic projects. A couple of nice new additions in SOLIDWORKS Electrical 2021.
So let's have a look at the news in drawings. When working with drawings, large assemblies, and especially drawings of large assemblies, it is important that it's quick and easy to change the way we are viewing the drawing. Throughout the years, SOLIDWORKS has worked hard on improving that experience for its users. In SOLIDWORKS 2020, the option Enhanced Graphic Performance were implemented for assemblies to take advantage of high-end graphic cards by moving the burden to the card. This option is now implemented for drawings as well. And to illustrate this, I have created the video. I'm not sure if it's going to be fully viewable, the enhancement on the stream, but give it a try. So in this video, I have SOLIDWORKS 2020 on the left side and 2021 on the right side. In both of them, I'm going to open a drawing of a large assembly with about 2,400 components. I'm going to start by panning the drawing in 2020. And as you can see, it's quite good, but it's not spot on my mouse. It's a bit delay between my movement and the movement of the drawing. If I do the same in 2021, it is spot on. It's exactly moving at the time of my movement with the mouse. If I zoom, I have the same experience. And panning when zoomed is lightning fast. If I do the same in 2020, I get the delay on my zoom and I can end up overshooting it. Panning is a bit quicker, but still not as good as in 2021. So absolutely a big improvement on working with large drawings here. Another good tool in drawings that was introduced in 2020 to simplify working with large files is detailing mode. So I'm going to go back to SOLIDWORKS and I'm going to close down my tips and tricks. Another tip to get to the recent part of the welcome window is to press R on your keyboard. And here I can use the drop downs to open my drawing in detailing mode. Detailing mode is used for typical detailing tasks such as adding dimension and annotations. And when I open my drawing in detailing mode, it's opened in seconds and it's quick and easy to change between the different sheets. One of the enhancements in 2021 is that you can now edit existing annotations such as note and dimension. If I edit this note, I can remove information and add new. I have all my editing tools available, which makes it quick and easy to change the note to be adjusted to how I want this one. Another good enhancement in detailing mode for 2021 is that it now supports detail view, break views, and crop view. So we're going to make a break view on this top view to make it match the front view below better. So I'm just going to add my break lines. And when that is done, you can see that all the break line styles are available, and I can also adjust the gap size and orientation. Ordinate dimensions are also supported, and I can add new ones to already existing ordinate systems, such as these edges and center lines. As I mentioned, detail view is also available in SOLIDWORKS 2021, and I can do that in the same way as I do normally. I just draw a circle around the area I want to make the detail, or use an already existing sketch geometry. When you have such detail views, it's common to add whole information. And in Detailing Mode 2021, I can add whole callouts to my views. I can also add shortened dimensions where necessary. So with every editing tool available for both notes and dimensions, I can change this one to have 3 decimals, and I can add a symmetric tolerance of 0.0505 inch. The dimension to the first hole is not set to center, as we can see here. So I can easily change that by going to leader and change to center. So a lot of great enhancements in detailing mode, but not all enhancement in drawing is only in detailing mode. They are there no matter how you load your drawing, if it's full result or if it's detailing mode. Such as when you do a dimension, you can now see that the text is transparent, so that's easier for me to see my second selection. And when I place it, it's going to be fully visible, as you can see here. Another good enhancement comes to when working with sketches in drawing. So sketches in drawing is the same as when we work with it in the sketch environment. We want to add relations between them. And normally, or before, we had to do this in the property manager, but now in SOLIDWORKS 2021, we get the pop-up next to our cursor, so it's easier to create those relations quickly to finish up this pinned icon. So that was the enhancements in, yeah, maybe some of you noticed that you have VDA inspection balloons now, so that's new and it's good for those working with the automotive industry. Yeah, it's news with drawings.
Okay, we are going to look at eDrawings. There are some news there as well. And what you see here is one of the sub-assemblies in our product. You can now see custom properties and configuration specific properties within the eDrawings viewer. So this is a SOLIDWORKS assembly which I have open, and pressing the file properties button here, I can see all the custom properties and configuration specific properties that comes from the top level assembly file from SOLIDWORKS. So you get more information out of the file, so to speak, when you open it in eDrawings 2021. And commands such as measure have been has gotten a couple of improvements as well. So if I want to measure between, say, this cylindrical face and this circular edge here, I will get the center distance between those two items. But now in 2021, I can choose to get the maximum or minimum distances instead. So it's probably a little bit hard to see on the graphics on your screen, but it now jumps to the maximum distance. Also, with measure, I can now get the normal distance between a cylindrical face like this and the face like this, displayed here. Sharing your 3D designs without having to install the free eDrawings viewer is quite simple. You can just save the file as web HTML, and that's something you can do within the eDrawings professional client. So if I look at my web browser, I have saved this subassembly out to a web HTML format. And as you can see here, it's the exact same content. This has been possible for a couple of years, I think, since 2019 or was it 2020? Now you can everything you do in the desktop eDrawings client can also be done here. You can measure and you can do a couple of things more. And this is a very nice way, just to mention a little bit more about this, a very nice way to share your designs with external stakeholders like customers or clients. And you can put this behind on the password protected area or stuff like that. So so please try it out. It's there if you have eDrawings Professional. What you can do now in this web version of this model is to sort of orient yourself by taking the model apart like this. And you can rotate and really get a closer look at the model. So so it has more tools for sort of orienting yourself in the model. So those are the news in the eDrawings universe, and I think I'll just switch to a couple more tips and tricks with SOLIDWORKS. So we have spoken a little bit about customization. You can do that in several different ways, and I'm now going to speak a little bit about the keyboard. The keyboard has been there since before the mouse was invented, and it's easily overlooked as a very nice tool to sort of that you can use to utilize the work faster, actually. So if I go into the Customize menu, I can see that I have some keyboard shortcuts here. Most of these shortcuts, they are default shortcuts that are there when you install SOLIDWORKS, and you can assign shortcuts on a lot of different things. What you might want to do is to see the list with the keyboard shortcuts that have or the commands that have assigned keyboard shortcuts already. And what you can do is to print this list out, and you can have it beside you on your desk and learn it by heart if you want to do that. So keyboard shortcuts is a very nice tool that is often overlooked. Also, in the same area, you have mouse gestures, and now we're back to the mouse again. But you can actually use the mouse to access these circular menus. You have 4 different contexts with its own menu, part, sketch, and so on. And you can fill these menus with several buttons between 4 and 12. And they are accessible if you just right-click wherever you are with the mouse and then flick the mouse in a certain direction. And it's a very subtle movement that is needed to sort of invoke the command. And it's very it also provides a different method to work faster. All right, so I'll just go out of this. If I now a little bit about the rebuild. If I want to change a fillet, say this fillet in the bottom here. If I change this to a different radius, what happens after the change is that the model rebuilds from the change and outwards. Basically the same thing that happens if you press the rebuild button here. It will rebuild since the last change of your model. The shortcut is Control B. What you might do a couple of times is to use a different way to rebuild, which is Control Q. And Control Q does exactly the same thing, but it rebuilds from the start of the tree and all the way through. So it rebuilds everything in the file. This can be useful if you should find yourself in a situation where you have a drawing where the views are not updated after the last change, and then you can switch back to the part or assembly file and then do a quick Control Q, and the drawing views will probably be updated after that. So Control Q, it was never intended, I think, by SOLIDWORKS to be a user function, so it doesn't have its own button as Control B have, but you find it as a shortcut, Control Q. All right, so back to keyboard and using the keyboard. You can actually do more with the keyboard than just assigning keyboard shortcuts. You can actually use the keyboard in many different things. So we have spoken about the S button on the keyboard, which gives you this menu. The S button gives you another thing also, and that is this little cursor on the top here. And what you can do when pressing the S key is to just start typing, and then you can start the command. So if I now want to make a diagonal plane between those two planes that I've selected, I can just press the S key, type my plane command, press enter to start the command, enter again to get OK, and then I have created a diagonal plane. Very easy, but really just by using the keyboard. So you can do a lot of things with the keyboard to work faster. All right. That's it for tips and tricks.
Super. Okay, and that makes the end of the first session. We've been to user experience, part 1 of assemblies, drawings, tips and tricks, PDM, electrical, eDrawings, and some more tips and tricks.